Who has the blood of Christ? It's a question most Christians never think to ask. It sounds too literal, too anatomical, too grounded in something the gospel seems to rise beyond. And yet, who has the blood of Christ? The New Testament speaks of his blood with profound reverence, shed for the forgiveness of sins, sealing a new covenant, flowing not just from his wounds, but through the entire logic of redemption. It is central to Christian theology, but what does it mean? For centuries, believers have focused on the spiritual significance of that blood, what it symbolizes, what it sanctifies. But the Gospel of Matthew opens with something strikingly physical, a genealogy, line after line of ancestry, the bloodline of Jesus. It begs the question, if Christ had siblings and those siblings had children, as the Gospels suggest, then what became of that bloodline? Where did it go? Is it still with us? This is not a question about relics or secret heirs. It's a question that touches on something much larger than genetics or history. It forces us to ask what it really means to belong to Christ, by blood, by covenant, and by life. And it turns out that the answer not only reframes the Gospel of Matthew, but also the very structure of human identity and unity. The Gospel begins with a name. Matthew's Gospel opens not with a miracle or a proclamation, but with a genealogy. 72 names, 42 generations, spanning centuries, tracing a line from Abraham to David through exile and finally to Jesus. This is not incidental. In Scripture, to name is to know, to place is to purpose. Matthew begins with names to show that Christ does not descend from myth, but from memory, from history, from blood. His coming is not a break from the past, but its convergence. The names are not random, they are patterned into 3 segments, each marking a turning point in Israel's story. The first moves from Abraham to David, promise to kingship. The second, from David to the exile in Babylon, glory to judgment. The third, from exile to Christ, fragmentation to fulfillment. These transitions are not linear, but rhythmic, even musical. 3 movements in a divine composition, echoing themes, resolving in harmony. What is being revealed is not simply descent, but design. Bloodlines and the pattern of humanity. What happens when we consider this lineage not only theologically, but biologically? Genealogy, like theology, seeks connection. And just as Scripture traces names to find meaning, biology traces ancestry to reveal relationship. Modern genealogical models demonstrate something staggering. The web of human descent is not a branching tree, but an interwoven net. In any given population, lineages collapse and recombine. After just a few dozen generations, most people in a region share common ancestors. Extrapolated over 2,000 years, this pattern becomes universal. Statistically, anyone from the broader Middle Eastern and Eurasian regions is almost certainly descended from the same family lines, including those of Jesus' siblings. The Gospels tell us Jesus had brothers, James, Joseph, Simon, Judas, and unnamed sisters. If even one of them had children, and those children's lines survived, they would have multiplied across the Roman Empire and beyond. Through war, trade, migration, and marriage, their descendants would spread into the veins of millions. Today, many of us, perhaps most of us, are likely linked by blood to the same household that once lived in Nazareth. But Matthew is not simply concerned with biological descent. The emphasis on patterned generations, repeated 3 times, each segment 14 generations long, signals something deeper than ancestry. It reveals the echo of a divine rhythm, a structure beneath history's chaos. The Gospel writer is telling us this lineage is about more than heritage. It is about meaning. Christ's blood signifies a covenant, not merely a code. This sacred bond transcends the written laws and speaks to the heart of divine promise. In ancient Israel, blood was not a metaphor for DNA. It was the medium of sacrifice, the mark of covenant, the bearer of life. When Jesus speaks of his blood at the Last Supper, poured out for many for the forgiveness of sins, he is not offering genetics, he is offering union, the kind that transcends biology. Christ's blood is not about purity of descent, but purity of purpose. It does not mark a family line, but forms a family from all lines. It flows not to preserve tradition, but to fulfill it. His blood, once poured out, does not belong to him alone. It becomes the substance of a new humanity, bound not by ancestry but by love. This redefines what it means to be of Christ. To carry his blood is not merely to trace one's line back to ancient Judea. It is to live by the same light, to embody the same love, to enact the same truth. In this way, the Gospel's opening genealogy, seemingly dry and technical, becomes a declaration of unity, not tribal identity, but cosmic inclusion. One family in history, one pattern in time. If Matthew's genealogy shows us anything, it is that the story of Jesus is not the story of one man, but of all people. It gathers the patriarchs, the kings, the exiles, and the broken-hearted into a single arc, one that culminates not in dominance, but in vulnerability. Not in isolation, but in embrace. This is the pattern: promise, collapse, restoration, faith, failure, fulfillment. It is the pattern of Israel, of humanity, of each human life. Jesus does not stand above this pattern, he passes through it. He is born into it, he redeems it by living it fully and transforming it from within. What this means is that his genealogy is also ours. If the blood of his family flows in our veins, it is a marvel of mathematics. But if his life flows through our actions, it is the fulfillment of the gospel. We do not need to prove descent to belong to this lineage. We need only to reflect the same pattern, to take up the promise, to endure the exile, and to offer ourselves in love. So who has the blood of Christ? We all might, in the biological sense, share ancestry with his family, but that is not the question the gospel ultimately asks. Its concern is not with what flows through our veins, but what moves through our hearts. To have the blood of Christ is to carry forward his life, not merely in body, but in spirit. To be a child of Abraham is not to trace a line, but to walk in faith. To be a son of David is not to claim a throne, but to serve in justice. And to be of Christ is not to possess his blood, but to pour it out in love. His blood was shed, not hoarded. It was given, not guarded. And now it runs wherever love is stronger than fear, wherever light overcomes darkness, wherever truth is spoken not to win, but to heal. So we ask again, who has the blood of Christ? Anyone who lives as he lived, loves as he loved, and reveals what he revealed. Not because of the names behind them, but because of the life within.